Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the Otherppl podcast, a weekly program featuring in-depth interviews with today's leading writers. I am Brad Listi, and I'm in Los Angeles. I appreciate you tuning in. Hope you're doing okay. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. You can also subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. So today is Friday, and it is time for another flashback where I dig into the archives and share an outtake from an episode out of the past. Today, I will be sharing an outtake from episode 574, my conversation with Richard Chiem. Episode 574 first aired on April 3rd, 2019. Richard Chiem is the author of You Private Person, available from Sorry House Classics, and a novel called King of Joy, which was published by Soft Skull in 2019. A flashback to episode 574, my conversation with Richard Chiem, is coming up momentarily. A reminder that I do a weekly email newsletter. I would love it if you would subscribe over at bradlisti.substack.com. And if you are a regular listener, if you appreciate this show, I hope you will consider joining the Otherppl Patreon community over at patreon.com/otherpplpod. Help keep this show going into the future. So today's flashback once again comes from episode 574, which first aired on April 3rd, 2019. A reminder that the full episode 574, is available in the feed. So if you like this flashback and you want to go in for the full hour, just look for episode 574 wherever you listen. All right. So let's get to it. Here I am in conversation back in 2019 with Richard Chiem.
It's actually an homage to, there's a book I really love called The Quick and the Dead by Joey Williams. There's a character in there that's also Corvus. And when I read it for the first time, I thought she was one of the saddest characters I ever read. And I wanted my Corvus to give kind of homage to that Corvus. So that's where the name comes from. But yeah, I kind of had this general idea of a woman that was going through a great loss, and exactly how she kind of gets through that is exactly what the novel is. Yeah, it was fun to write too. It took a while.
But I mean, like, had you experienced any like great loss that you were relating to?
Not similar to what she went through, but I'm definitely a sad, depressed person. So it's kind of easy for me to kind of work through my own periods of grief actually through that novel.
Yeah. Have you been through a lot of loss?
Here and there, yes.
Okay. I mean, we all are. Like, I say this sort of selfishly, and like, I think we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Just because I'm writing a griefy book.
No, I know you are.
I'm like, I need to stop talking about it. But I guess, like, the fact that you made it to the finish line and you found a way to do it that didn't feel suffocating. I mean, did you experience any of that? Like, I feel like it's such a tonal struggle. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like trying to come up with a way to write it so that the reader isn't like, doesn't feel like battered at the end of it or something.
Totally. And I think that's a really good consideration. I don't know. It goes back to an editor I really like. Her name's Kristin Iversen. She's the editor for Nylon.
Yeah, I know Kristin.
Yeah, she's really wonderful. She articulated really well that she like reads, essentially she reads novels about grief, not because she wants to feel more sadness, but there's something about watching like or witnessing like a strange narrative of someone surviving something incredibly weird and sad, just to know someone else can survive it. So for me, I think it was just providing another example into that weirdness in a way.
But I mean, like, but specifically,
yeah,
like including weirdness or magical realism or elements of surreality.
Right.
You know, that is an important element to, like, it's like the spoonful of sugar or something that makes the medicine go down. Like, was that kind of like what helped you crack it?
The surreal aspect definitely helped me kind of, because I didn't want to beat the reader up. There's almost so much suffering you could put the reader through. I didn't necessarily want to make the book entertaining, but you wanted to make the book accessible in a way for the kind of the jumping out point to be, yeah, it is a novel about grief, but it's also a novel about, like, there's a hippo attack at the end of it. And I like that.
A hippopotamus attack.
Exactly right, sir.
And when did that occur to you? How much pot are you smoking, Richard?
Maybe a little too much. I actually read this Washington Post or article like years ago about a man surviving a hippo attack. And the article was so visceral, I like couldn't stop thinking about it. And I also knew once I kind of had those surreal elements in my head, I could make this novel work. Because I think you do need to have a balance. Well, in my particular view, when I did this particular grief novel, I needed like a balance of like the surreal, not like a red herring to distract the reader, but just to have, because I think when we are in moments of grief, the details that are known to us in those moments are strangely vibrant and are kind of weird. It's that like truth is stranger than fiction kind of thing, which kind of gave me more privilege to kind of go a little more adventurous and like where this novel went. Like, and I didn't feel like embarrassed to kind of go there because there were sad elements too. But I think you can ground those in very strange, shiny objects.
Yeah, it's weird terrain, grief.
Yeah, unfortunately so.
But also
heavily relatable.
Heavily relatable, but like I think maybe that element of the grieving process is underplayed. Just how weird it is. Maybe it's because you're paying more attention, or it sort of opens you up, and
I think so.
You're noticing more.
Yeah, you have to be more honest.
Why though? Like I guess you're confronted with like the ultimate reality. So
well, if you're faking on the page, I think the reader can tell too. So it's like, to me, I always tell my students it's about getting to the truth of whatever your character is without being cliche. So you have to ask yourself really good questions and really strange questions as you kind of work scene by scene.
Well, like what kinds of questions?
Like when we think what grief looks like, and you build out a scene, I think you have to always ground or anchor that to, well, scenes of like identity. Like for one, my main character she is me, but she's also not me. I'm a cis male, she's not a cis male. I think she has a greater capacity for emotion than I do, which made her a great hero for the book. But because she is not me, I had to ask myself questions that would have to answer the truth of what her suffering might look like and how she would need to survive it, or the methods she would need to take upon herself to survive it, because she is who she is. It gets really complicated, but I did ask many questions while writing it, just to make sure it stayed authentic to whatever I thought she was going through.
And before we get any further, I do want to ask you about this hippo attack that you read about.
Yeah.
Because hippos kill more people every year than sharks.
Totally. They're like the third most dangerous animal in Africa.
Yeah.
After like people and mosquitoes.
Like incredibly powerful jaws.
Yeah. Really grumpy. Like incredibly grumpy.
Fast?
Yeah. 35 miles an hour on land, I think.
Oh, fuck.
I know.
They don't look like they could run that fast.
I know. They're so cute too, but they're also very territorial and dangerous.
And they can basically like bite you in half.
Yeah. So
what happened in this attack that you read about?
Well, one, I had no idea hippos could even do that. I was on the other. I think the reasons why they're so the death rate is so high with hippos, or killing people, is people heavily underestimate them. So I always think of them as like really cute creatures, which they are, but like they're like folks out on safari that think the same thing, and they get too close, so then they get rampaged by hippos that are incredibly territorial.
Is it usually like land-based attacks, or people like swimming and
in the water? Usually, like their boat gets capsized. That's what the Washington Post article referred to. This man that used to take folks on like safari trips, and they went on the water, and their boat capsized, and then the next thing he knew, he was like essentially inside the mouth of a hippo, and that was it was one of the It was so visceral, but I also thought it was something out of Jaws or something. I just never knew that they had that capacity.
And did he survive?
He survived it, yeah.
With what injuries?
I think he had I think he had like an amputated limb. At one point, he saw his own lung like floating out of his body.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, Brad.
No, like I always say, like you know, the end of a life is going to be difficult, probably no matter what, on some level.
Right.
Like, please God, don't let me be a meal.
Exactly.
You know, just to get eaten alive. Holy shit.
He survived though.
I know, but still.
Yeah.
I guess, like, I mean, what was his attitude like afterwards? Did you get a sense?
He had mad respect for the hippo after that. Which then, yeah, I did too after that.
Well, yeah. I mean, and you owe that hippo the, you know, part of your book.
I do, yeah. All my friends always gift me like hippo things now too. It's really quite lovely. Like my room's filled with like hippo memorabilia.
It's like your luck. It's like a totem or like a talisman.
Kind of, I'm like tied to it. I feel quite lovely about it.
You think there are going to be more hippos in your work as like a recurring motif?
I actually was joking about it with a couple of friends a couple of days ago. But I think I'm working on a novella in the perspective of the hippo in the book. But like maybe before all this happened. Just like, not like a joke, but like a fun novella to work on.
Yeah, sometimes when I hear about these, like this woman who just got mauled by a jaguar. Do you read about this?
No, but that's horrible.
Well, no, it's kind of... It's one of these stories where, like, the woman's at the zoo. And
I did hear about that.
She climbs over the barrier.
For, like, a photo or something?
To take a selfie. And I think the jaguar reached through the bars and, like, swiped her with its claw. I'm not 100% sure. I want to say it was through bars. But still, like, sometimes when I hear about animal attacks in nature, and then I'm also, like, reading about, like, climate change and just, like, human foolishness.
Tons of that, yeah.
There's a part of me that's like, nature's pissed.
Right. I think the dude said something about, we're not going to kill the jaguar, which I think was really cool. I think I saw something like that.
Yeah, no, the zoo said no. The woman jumped the barrier. It's not the jaguar's fault. The jaguar's a wild animal.
Exactly.
But like, what is it with people?
I don't know, man.
Like, you gotta be a complete moron.
They want the photo. They want the likes.
Yeah, well, so do I. But like, I don't want to get... It's a fucking jaguar, you know? Like, I go hiking in the morning, and it's dark when I go. And there's a mountain lion that lives in Griffith Park.
Yeah.
I think about it every morning.
Mountain lions are scary. They're probably the creatures I'm most afraid of in the wild. Because they will hunt you.
They will hunt you, and you won't know until it's like on top of you.
Right.
And I'm always like, I don't want to jinx myself, but it's just like, it's like, how can this? It's not that big of a park.
Right.
How can this thing be living up there? There's people everywhere.
Right.
How can there not be any problems? Why are they letting it stay? You know, I don't want it to get hurt, but it's like, why can't we move this thing to a better habitat?
I don't know, man. Is it like just one?
It's just one.
One?
Because I think what happened is it crossed the Highway 101.
Oh, wow.
Just to get into the park. Like, it's very unlikely. And it's also because of human encroachment on natural habitat, the mountain lion population has been dramatically reduced. So there's all this inbreeding.
Sure.
So it's like this like lone bachelor mountain lion or bachelorette. I can't remember if it's male or female, but it's inbred. It's I want to say genetically, it's like, generationally inbred from this very small batch of lions that lives in the mountains around here. And this one happens to be essentially trapped by freeways.
Oh, wow.
Inside of Griffith Park, which is like a city park.
And people like run in that park and everything?
Yeah.
It's like totally accessible?
Yeah.
That is wild stuff.
I know. So I don't know. It's weird to have like this lion living in this park that I go to.
That's awesome, though.
It is.
But that would affect my morning run.
Because they especially track runners.
Right.
Or people on mountain bikes and stuff like that.
Yeah, just do it.
It sucks. Okay. So depression, you mentioned.
Yep.
Like, you struggle with this your whole life? Is this something you have to medicate? I mean, obviously with the pot, maybe, like you're medicating, but...
Yeah, I would say I've been like a sad, depressed person, but it's been better and better each year, I would say. Like, I'm definitely better than I was like 10 years ago. And finding like better coping mechanisms. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm also a runner. I really enjoy that a lot. And I've been taking a lot more walks in Seattle. The writing routine and the rigor helps too. But yeah, I think I am
like it's like, do you know what it is? Like, I mean, I know it's always like a hodgepodge. Mm-hmm. I wonder about this. Like, is it neurochemical predisposition or is it like the events of life? I guess it's some combination of two.
It has to be some combination. I think I can always track it back to like, unfortunately, like childhood and like I actually had a pretty rough upbringing.
How so? Did we talk about that? I don't want to repeat.
No, it's okay. I can't remember if we did actually. I kind of had I had an abusive mother. We had like a divorce when I was 14. My parents separated, which wasn't that dramatic, but I think it's really the relationship I had with my mother and her relationship with my other siblings that kind of affected everything here on out. But I also find that experience to be incredibly valuable. I actually really like being a sad person. I actually talked about this a little bit last night. I think it gives you like some kind of heightened sense of, well, hopefully empathy if you're like in the mood for it. I also mentioned this last night during the reading that some weird little thing I kind of do with strangers is I like to pretend people might be having like the worst day of their life just in case, just to give them that extra TLC, because I have been in situations like that where grief has been some kind of secret, which does sometimes mean that I might be overly polite, but it's kind of something like I do on a day-to-day basis.
There's worse things you can do.
I hope so, yeah.
And by the way, this is the worst day of my life.
I kind of thought so.
All right, that was Richard Chiem in episode 574, which first aired on April 3rd, 2019. Fun time talking with Richard, who I think was very stoned during that conversation, if my memory serves. I could be wrong, but I seem to recall that. If you like what you heard and you want to hear the full hour with Richard Chiem, just look for episode 574 wherever you get your podcasts. It is there, waiting for you. You can find out more about Richard and his books at richardchiem.com. Follow him on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I believe Tumblr. Is Tumblr still a thing? I don't even know. Don't forget to subscribe to this show wherever you listen. You can also subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on social, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. Sign up for my newsletter at bradlisti.substack.com. Join the Other People Patreon community over at patreon.com/otherpplpod. Help keep this show going into the future. If you have 2 minutes, please give this show a rating wherever you listen. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, what have you. Rate it, review it. It helps the show find new listeners. To get an Other People t-shirt or join my book club, visit the show's official website, otherppl.com. And if you want to read my latest book, it is a novel called Be Brief and Tell Them Everything, available in trade paperback, ebook, and audiobook editions. I narrate the audiobook, so there are options if you want to read my book. It's out there. It's a novel. Again, it's called Be Brief and Tell Them Everything. All right, so coming up on Sunday, I will be in conversation with Teddy Wayne. He has a new novel out called The Winner. It is excellent. A true page-turner, available from Harper. Teddy Wayne making a triumphant return to the Other People show. That is coming up on Sunday. Stay tuned.